It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Aggronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belgast, and let's start the show.
Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 358. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Pax Edition.
A terribly sleep-deprived Kodra.
Also featuring my 5-day-old daughter, who is podcasting with me.
Sweet.
Yay.
Tam.
You started early.
Hello.
And Thalen.
Hi there.
Yeah, so we were just about to start recording, and I saw Kodra pop in, because I didn't know if we'd have a Kodra this week. And, Kodra's had a busy week.
It's definitely been an interesting one. This baby was not due this week, and we have a sample size of babies of one. And our one sample size of baby was, on the due date, you go into the hospital and then you have a baby. Everything is scheduled. Everything happens exactly as planned. And so, of course, 8 days early, water breaks and we have to go immediately to the hospital. And so, surprise, we have a baby.
Hey, at least it sounds like once the baby decided to come, the baby was in a rush. You weren't waiting around all night, desperately hoping the baby would, get up off its teeny tiny little ass and, make an appearance.
We had a little bit of medical help, but it was pretty good. Like, the team worked well and everything happened. She was born at 314. Which happens to be the IQ of one William Blaze. She's my little Commander Keen baby.
As it should
Awesome.
be. So we rapidly shuffled the topic order a little bit. I think we're going to still start with Pandemic Pax. Because I have been hearing little reports of things, but Ash, this is a you topic, I assume?
I mean, I didn't put it on the list, but I was there.
Okay. How did this thing go?
It's a lot smaller, let's say.
Yeah.
Maybe a third the size of usual. The only real big company there is Bandai Namco, showing off Tales of Arise, which is a game you can download the demo to on your own device if you'd like.
The number one thing that I kept hearing is that there were no vendors.
Honestly, kind of quite the contrary. I would say that the vendor there's a lot more vendors than I would normally expect because there's just so much less stuff in general.
Okay.
Less exhibitors is what I would...
There's fewer well, there's also just less stuff overall, but there's also fewer exhibitors.
The vendor to exhibitor ratio does seem higher than normal, simply because many of the vendors still came and so few exhibitors did.
Yeah. The thing that I noticed, and again, not super surprising, but I normally associate. There's a lot of conventions in this area, and I normally mentally lump them into loud and quiet conventions. Like Geek Girl Con tends to be pretty quiet. It doesn't have crazy loud blaring speakers everywhere, whereas PAX generally does. You walk into the exhibitors hall and it's just a cacophony of crazy noise, and bright flashing lights and so on, and there was a lot less of that here than usual. You could walk around and have a reasonable conversation without shouting.
I would kind of assume that as far as booths go, nobody really wanted to do a big outlay when it was potential that it could get called off at any moment.
It was Bandai Namco, and that was it.
They still did the PAX 10 thing, so a bunch of indies were there. The Indie Mega booth was not there, which is normally where a lot of them show up and honestly get funding to come.
So you've mentioned Bandai Namco. I know this game is of interest to one person here. Ammo, have you played the demo at all?
I have played the demo, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was really nice. I'm looking forward to playing the game next week.
So I didn't quite get it. It's a JRPG, right? Like,
Yeah.
It's a Tales game.
it's a Tales game. Okay. I think I haven't played a Tales game.
I had not played a Tales game until recently, and I friggin' enjoyed the hell out of it, or at least as far as I've made it.
Tales games are great.
Like, this is a series that I had completely never even noticed. Like, we've talked about it on the show occasionally, but, like, it is not a thing I'd ever played. And I'm trying to think of which Tales game I played. Tales...
I got into it with Tales of Symphonia.
Vesperia. Vesperia is the one I'm playing on Switch.
Vesperia is quite good.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
until, like, I want to say 2 years ago, it was stuck on the 360.
I think so, yeah.
And it does not seem like it is an older game to me. Like, it seems very modern, and the characters are great. And
I mean, it kind of is, but the art style they used was quite good and scaled pretty well.
I mean, the Lunar games still look good.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. It will probably be a long time before I actually get around to playing it.
My husband and I will be playing it together. We usually play RPGs on the weekends together, so that's our new one. It kind of lines up with our timing there. So,
Does it let you do the like kind of sort of co-op thing?
I don't really know. I honestly haven't looked into it too much because I didn't think I would be playing it right when it came out. So I've kind of not really looked at stuff too much to surprise myself when we do get to play it.
I
I
know
have
there were
no idea. I know Vesperia did.
yeah, and Symphonia did. I thought.
Symphonia also did. Symphonia is the first game I know of the first game I played that did that.
Well, they're all like pseudo actiony, aren't they?
Yes.
Yeah, they're all like
Yeah.
action combat in battles
Yeah, like,
to various extents.
if you're not familiar with Tales games, like one of the things that sets them apart in a big way from Final Fantasy and other JRPGs is that combat is not turn-based. Combat is various kind of real time in a field, like in a flat field. It's sort of difficult to explain. But
You also kind of get super carried by your other NPCs. At least that's been my experience so far. Like, if I'm slow at all to engage, they're wrecking face without me.
Look, Repeat is a good boy.
Really is.
Looks like Berseria did, and that's the one I think most similar to Arise. So probably it's still going to support co-op in battles.
It might be an interesting couch co-op experience.
Yeah, if that's the case, I'll definitely be checking that out.
Were there any indies that were interesting?
One from the last PAX I attended, which would have been South in 2020, was there that I thought was real cool. Summoner's Fate, which is sort of a card-based tactical game.
Sounds really familiar.
There was a weird cyberpunk cafe automation game.
That was the one that stood out the most to me. What was it? Cyberpunk Ramen? Was that what it was called?
It had a ramen it's called Neon Noodles.
Neon Noodles.
This game is actually in early access now, but I didn't know about it until I saw it on the floor.
But yeah, Cyberpunk Kitchen Automation.
So like a cyberpunk short order cook kind of thing, but you're like making machines to spit the things out?
It was described to me as Cyberpunk Kitchen Satisfactory.
Okay.
It appears to be more Cyberpunk Kitchen Opus Magnum.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's what I saw of it was weird, but also compelling. Yeah, it's like, what if Opus Magnum, but making ramen in the cyberpunk future?
Have any of you played Satisfactory?
Yes,
That's a great game.
it is.
Yeah, that's the game that came to mind first, but on closer inspection, it's a little closer to Opus Magnum.
Yeah.
Do you ever ask the question when you're playing this game, what am I doing here, Bell?
I mean, clearly, we're making widgets for our alien friends.
Like, this is a game that you are building machines to build things, but like very intentionally not given a point of like why you're building things. You are doing automation for automation's sake.
Right. You're making widgets, literally.
You are there to make the machines that make other things. Why? Because you can. Why else would, like, isn't that enough? Isn't making it so that one machine connects to another machine to feed in 3 different materials and pour out a new one that you can then send to another machine? Isn't that worth it alone? Like, you don't need to have an end goal. The end goal is make more machines.
Like,
that make things.
While playing Satisfactory, I totally picture that, like, it's an Ouroboros type situation to where, like, you are spending all this effort to take things and turn them into these other things, and then someone on the other side is going through the exact opposite process to break the things down back into the constituent elements to feed them to you.
It is a game, like, many games have that moment where, like, what am I doing here? Like, what is the point of this? That happens frequently in Satisfactory.
I'm making a satisfying machine.
Yes.
Economists talk about making widgets. I'm making widgets. Anything else at PAX we want to talk about?
It was a little amusing that they had a station set up for Steel Battalion.
That was that was the largest number of Steel Battalion setups I have seen in one place probably ever.
Was it like, was somebody doing like an exhibition of like multiplayer Steel Battalion or something?
I have no idea. It was like in the free play Steel Battalion is, I think, how it was set up.
I mean,
I'm pretty sure at PAX South one year they had 2 stations of Steel Battalion in the console room set up to play each other.
Right. This was, I think, 8.
Oh my
6
god.
or 8 or something like that.
That's impressive.
what I was going to say is one of the things that when I was able to go to Gen Cons, was usually at Gen Cons and usually worth checking out, was somebody had a pod of BattleTech.
Yep. I remember going to Dallas to play BattleTech in a pod.
And like you had all of the pedal, like it was as unintuitive as like you might imagine piloting a mech is.
I mean, it's also the finest 90s era computer technology.
Sure. But like
it's a miracle they're still working.
It sure feels like you are in control of this mech. The graphics are not good, but you are able to like press various pedals and get your mech to function just as you might imagine. But yeah, like it's always fun to go in there and you always wanted to be in a heavy. That's what I remember.
I want to say it was like set up in one of the malls in Dallas. They had like basically a storefront where they had the pods and you go in and pay an exorbitant amount of money. And I don't remember how much it was to go play. And I want to say it was 6v6.
So
like, this is right. Fuzzy memories of the 90s.
I think at Gen Con, it's either $8 or $16 per person to play. Which, yeah, it's not cheap, but you're at Gen Con, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like, where else are you going to get to play with these things?
It's usually by the time you're doing this, it's 2 a.m., you're getting back from the bar, and somebody's like, hey, let's go play BattleTech.
My personal favorite of that sort of thing was T-Mech. And I think it was an Atari game that was hovercraft combat, if I remember correctly. And the big arcade here in town had 4 sit-down units that were 2v2. It was great. It was so much fun. And then arcades died, and we're all sad. Mm-hmm. I've got a friend that was talking about that they've started collecting the arcade 1-up cabinets. And 1, like, I love that they exist, but 2, they're so tiny. and I would have to get like multiple risers to make them comfortable to play. But like, I guess they've got a stool that they drag around between all their little now sit down arcade cabinets. But that their biggest joy is just to have like 8 or 10 of these cabinets lined up, all sitting in attract mode, so they can briefly re-experience what it was like to walk into an arcade and hear all the different games going at once.
Yeah.
It's a topic we briefly hinted on last week, and now that Kodra's here this week, we will talk about it. The weird things that are going to happen with Magic the Gathering in 2022.
Yeah, Magic in 2022 is going to be a little weird. We're going into universes beyond. But even the core sets are kind of weird. Like the like standard and draft sets. Well, most of the sets are going to be draft sets. Table sets are kind of off the beaten path by quite a bit for Magic. Like we start off with, do you remember Kamigawa? The
Yep.
plane from a while ago, as frequently
The plane that gave us Umezawa's Jitte.
It was a 3-block set, and it was not well loved, but it had some really interesting things going on.
Apparently, it's very well loved by the players, which is a fact that like Aaron Forsyth brings up, and unspoken is for some reason, because none of the people at Magic thought they were good sets, but they have like big fans of them. Anyway,
I thought they also didn't sell very well.
They had ninjas. Well, it was during a weird lull in Magic prior to Mirrodin, I think, or was it post Mirrodin?
I thought Alara was right after Kamigawa.
Like
Alara
it released during a lull, and they didn't produce a lot of product.
But we're going to take that setting and fling it 2,000 years in the future, because I'm sure time travel happens in Magic. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Fate Reforged is a thing. We're 2,000 years in the future, and it's Kamigawa Cyberpunk. So Kamigawa Neon Dynasty is the name of the set. It features a new planeswalker that has a robot raccoon. Which,
I'm on board with this. Like, wait, so we're going to get a Cyberpunk Magic set?
Yep.
Set in Kamigawa?
Yep.
Holy hell.
It looks pretty cool. It's been hinted that the Emperor is somebody who is familiar to us. So maybe a new bad is come back. I'm like the pit of me that has dread says it'll be Nicol Bolas. I really hope it's not Nicol Bolas.
That would be very Shadowrun of it.
It would be very Shadowrun of it, but I hope Nicol Bolas was gone for a little bit longer. We also have, after that, is the Streets of New Capenna, which I liked the commentary. There's going to be a lot of people who say this is ripping off from BioShock, but let it be known that Art Deco existed before BioShock.
It's true. Yes.
This is the most Art Deco font I've seen in a while.
You are playing in a plane that was where the major city was founded by angels, but has since been overrun by 5 competing demon gangs.
That sounds amazing.
So it's going to be a 5-wedge set, with each of the wedges being one of the gang houses.
Art Deco demons.
Yup.
Magic has discovered that it can start applying random nouns together, and here we are.
Yup.
If they don't have Tommy guns and zoot suits, I will be disappointed.
So the one thing that a lot of speculation has come up is Magic has intentionally never had firearms. Like, it's just a thing that doesn't exist in any of the Magic worlds. But like Cyberpunk and Art Deco both are settings where you would expect firearms.
Hold up. Absolutely Magic cards with firearms.
There are bazookas.
Like
there are crossbows. There are
goblins use
have
firearms. Yeah,
I'm thinking about like the Aliborn stuff.
What is that?
I mean, they were in. Oh God, what set were they in? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure there's been at least a blunderbuss that's equipment.
Goblins are allowed to use firearms. I will grant you that, but they are usually like old-timey firearms.
Looks like Portal had some actual firearms in it.
Specifically, Portal 3 Kingdoms, or
No.
just Portal? Okay,
Portal Second Age.
but it'll be interesting. Yeah, so we'll see. We will see what it has. After those two sets, we go back to everyone's first plane, the plane of Dominaria, for Dominaria United. So makes sense to go back to something a little bit more grounded in Magic's roots after two very new concept sets. And then the one I'm probably most excited for, we go all the way back to Magic's roots. And the fourth set next year is the Brothers' War.
Dude.
I am actually excited about that one.
So, thinking timing-wise, would the Dominaria set next year be the core set? And therefore the Brothers' War would have to be actually current? Or, I mean, yeah. I guess they wouldn't have to make it part of the current timeline, but...
No, it's not part of the current timeline, but it's definitely one of the standard sets.
Yeah, that might be interesting.
I'm here for
that
it.
Will be interesting, quite frankly.
Yeah.
That is the era of Magic that I actually remember stuff from and loved.
I mean,
to be fair, like,
been portrayed except as something that happened long ago.
There's a novel. There's a novel called The Brothers' War, and it is an amazing novel by Jeff Grubb. I haven't liked any other Magic books, but that one was great.
Yeah, like, it legitimately that book is the reason that I cared about Magic.
Yeah.
And it's part of a trilogy, all three books written by different people, none of them good except for that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very excited for this.
I even reread that book recently and it stood up.
Yeah, like I have reread that book a couple times just because like it's a good way to wallow in the nostalgia of the past Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And it still holds up. Like, it's a great novel. Like, it tells a poignant story that humanizes Urza and Mishra.
And so those are the standard sets. And then often the wild world of non-standard sets, you have a Universes Beyond Commander release for Warhammer 40,000, as they will always put in any official ad copy. It's very funny to hear how much Games Workshop made sure Wizard spokespeople knew they had to call it Warhammer 40,000. But
no one calls it that.
But we know that we're getting a 4 commander decks based off of Space Marines is the one we know about, and then some Xenos. And my joke is, I really hope they have orcs. It's red-green, and the red ones have a haste sub-theme.
That would be so good. I mean, then would you punch holes in your cards with a hole punch to make them go faster?
It's gonna be an interesting set. That's an interesting release. There is the other Commander Universes Unknown one that we know of is Lord of the Rings. We're going to get some Lord of the Rings Commander decks. Those are in 2023, though.
I would assume that would be tied to the Amazon series.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense.
What? Amazon series?
Yes, there's an Amazon like serialized television show for Lord of the Rings.
Huh.
That's coming out rather soon.
Yeah, because the game was supposed to be something like that too.
Yes, the game that will probably never happen. Yeah,
it was canceled, as I recall. I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember it being officially announced as canceled, but everyone just assumed it was in limbo permanently.
We also have two others. One is Street Fighter They have already featured the art for Chun-Li, and they have confirmed that Chun-Li will feature the returning keyword multi-kicker.
Ha ha.
And then
Unconscionable.
and then the one that made everyone upset, Fortnite.
Whatever.
Just weird.
Kids like Fortnite, right?
Kids like magic.
I actually feel like this is better publicity for Fortnite than it is publicity for Magic.
Probably.
I imagine that every Magic player is going to be like, whatever, and then that card is going to sell gangbusters because all it is a re-art secret layer.
There's going to be a heavy rolling of eyes, just like we did when Pokemon was released. But, I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably going to be
Imagine so.
popular.
Wait, I was a child when Pokemon was released.
Yeah, no, like,
I thought
when-
it was awesome.
When Pokemon the card game was released, every Magic gamer was like, what the hell, Blizzard, are you creating?
Wait a
Yep.
second. Wait, Blizzard?
Not Blizzard, sorry, Wizards.
Did Wizards create Pokemon?
Wizards released the first
They
4
published it in the
or
US.
5?
Yeah.
Oh. I played the heck out of that.
Yeah, it was a WotC product.
I thought it was great.
I played it too. I thought it was fun. Like,
I mean, clearly, it's one of the most enduring collectible card games of all time. Just because it is like 2 years older than Magic.
Hold on.
2 years younger than magic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. 2 years younger than Magic.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Pokemon was also a product of the 90s, which means that it has had almost as an enduring of a legacy as Wizards, which you can't say for. There were a lot of TCGs at that point, and I should know I played most of them.
Spellfire.
And
I
most
mean-
of them didn't survive.
No,
Right,
they did
like-
not.
Like Wizards tried to make another Magic like multiple times. Like there's lots of games they published that they really wanted someone to love and nobody ever did. I'm looking at you, Harry Potter trading card game.
Yeah, I played Middle Earth. I played the Decipher Star Wars game. I played the Decipher prequel Star Wars game. I played what else? Oh, I played the Austin Powers collectible card game.
My favorite collectible card game is still one that nobody cared about. I loved Rage, which was the werewolf.
Rage was great.
And what I liked the most about it was it scaled really well for lots of people, and also it was really fast. Like you could play it around in 10 minutes. I wish I had bought more like new old stock back before the trading card boom has made it all insane.
Yeah.
Because there was a time where you could buy booster boxes of Rage for like $15 on eBay. And now they're, I want to say the last of one of the expansions I saw, like the Legacy of the Tribes, which was the last full expansion. I think the last box I saw was selling for $800, something like that.
Good grief.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of that produced because like it was not
yeah.
popular at that point, but still, like there's a lot of named characters from that set that I never collected because it had like basically all of the characters from Werewolf the Apocalypse books. So Lord Albrecht and all those characters were in that specific one.
There's a couple other sets. Actually, some of my the sets I'm most excited about coming out. One is, so they released, I think right as the pandemic was happening, very poor timing, a Commander Legends or Commander New Horizons. What did they call that?
Commander Legends.
Commander
Not to be
Legends.
confused with Modern Horizons.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, they should really call it Commander Horizons or something because it's about printing new cards for the Commander set.
Yes, it is definitely about that a lot.
And also providing a interesting way of playing Commander, which is Commander Draft, where you can crack open boosters and draft a Commander deck. So this didn't do great, but I guess it did well enough given pandemic numbers, that they want to try it out again. And they're doing it in a way I'm super excited about. Commander Legends, Dungeons and Dragons, Battle for Baldur's Gate. We're going back to Forgotten Realms.
I mean, if it gets us more cool cards, I'm totally here for it.
I thought that the Forgotten Realms set was very fun.
I did
It's
too.
a good set, yeah.
And so we're going to have a Battle of Baldur's Gate. There's going to be lots of legendary cards. And yeah, I'm very excited.
Maybe they can print another Driss that people actually want to play.
I think I would make a Driss Commander deck. And then the last set being released is Unfinity. And the first two letters should set you off that it's an unset, which means it is not legally playable in any sanctioned format.
This makes it, in many ways, this is the actual Magic set I'm the most excited about.
You're allowed to print whatever you want, and it's going to be another funny, goofy comedy set. And working on it, which I'm very excited about, is for flavor text and for card names were members of the Loading Ready Run crew, specifically Graham, Kathleen, and Cameron. So I'm very excited to see what they produce there. But you're going to a space circus. Mark Rosewater is finally getting to make his circus set.
Oh dear.
And the thing I think is funny about, what was it, Unstable? That it wasn't true about Unhinged or Unglued. Wait, am I getting the sets names right?
No, Unstable's the most recent one.
Okay.
And yep.
Is that the cards, while absolutely silly, like there's some absolutely nonsense cards in there, but he wanted you to be able to play games with these cards, which was not entirely true of the previous sets.
It's true. I imagine this is also going to try and be a playable, like, anyone who is looking at the cards will intuitively understand how to use them, and anyone who is trying to parse them through Magic Comprehensive Rules is going to tear their hair out. Deal 4 damage to any target, trample.
That makes perfect sense. Unless you try to apply the comprehensive rules to it. Because trample is, as it turns out, kind of complicated. On the other hand, there's cards like Rules Lawyer.
There are cards like Rules Lawyer. Rules Lawyer does tell you in reminder text all of the things it does, which is good. Rules Lawyer says that state-based actions don't apply to you or other permanents you control. And state-based actions are the things that just happen to make the game of Magic work. Like, if a creature has taken damage equal to its toughness, it dies by a state-based action. If you go to 0 health, you lose the game as a state-based action. If a creature dies, any enchantments that are attached to it go to the state-based action. This is all of all of the standard rules of Magic just stop working.
It's a hilarious card.
It's a hilarious
It leads
card.
to board states that don't make any sense whatsoever.
It has 1 toughness, hit it with a shock. It itself does not ignore state-based actions.
But it's hilarious.
It is hilarious. It's also
Move it immediately.
super powerful, kill it immediately.
So is it possible to play Uncommander?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
In fact,
Yeah.
there was an Uncommander Winter. Like, that was a
During
thing.
the month of December, right after Unstable came out, they ruled that silver cards were legal in Commander.
And then they banned a bunch of unhinged and unglued cards because those cards were not actually meant to be played with.
And also Nerf War.
Right. Was Dinobot out at that point?
Yeah, it was. You could have played with that card if you wanted to.
Oh, nice.
It's been great to build a commander deck around
Twilight Sparkle?
Sparkle would be
I'm not sure those cards were out yet.
They weren't, but if they do it again, you better believe people are building a Twilight Sparkle Commander deck. I'm people.
I mean, if Silver Commander becomes a thing again, I definitely have a deck idea ready to go. Honestly, I might make this deck idea anyway, because I'm pretty sure you guys will let me play it regardless.
Yeah, probably. I don't see any problems with Silver Commander. I think it's fun.
And let's be clear, I already have a deck that's more disruptive than any silver deck I would build. So does Tam.
Yeah.
We've never played them together. That's probably for the best.
It's also true.
But yeah, weird stuff is coming in the space of Magic.
I'm all about it. And poor Professor is just going to have to get used to it.
Professor's becoming a little bit too much of a curmudgeon.
Like, he was real mad about The Walking Dead.
I mean, I was real mad about The Walking Dead. Not so much because it was a crossover, but because those were unique cards not available in normal sets.
One of which could be kind of good, depending on the conditions.
They've actually said they did announce their solution to this problem, actually. They are considering reprinting these cards in non-limited formats.
Yes.
Like with different names.
Well, granted, this is a little bit of a different thing. I thought there was a mystery boosters that had a bunch of them printed into them.
I don't think the Walking Dead cards made that.
I don't think they were out yet. Mystery Boosters had a ton of stuff in it, but
yeah, I know.
Like there were two Mystery Booster runs. There was the big run that was the limited edition one, and then there was the Convention Boosters run that you could only get if you were playing at conventions. And they had slightly different cards in them.
The convention specific ones were all not legal cards anyway. They were the weird playtest cards.
Okay. But anyway, like the Magic purists are just gonna have to deal. Like, what's the point of having a fantasy setting where you can move to alternate realities if you're just going to move to a bunch of similar alternate realities?
Wow, lean all the way into it.
Yep. So this next topic I was kind of talking a bit about before the show, and I threw it on the list. But there's a device called the Gamesir controller. It is a Chinese-made device, and what it is designed to do is to turn your phone into something vaguely resembling a Switch. And this is by far not the only device to try and do this thing. Razer has a device called the Kishi, which is a folding controller that sandwiches on either side of your phone, and attempts to make it, a comfortable form factor like the Switch is. The problem with the Razer Kishi is it just has engineering problems. So it's these two sides that snap apart, and then there's like this elastic cord piece that joins them together, and you're supposed to like jam your phone into one end and jam your phone into the other end. And then there's this elastic cord that is supposed to provide tension between the two halves. So problem number one, I have a Razer phone. It is a really huge phone. Razer's controller doesn't support their own damn phone. I have to remove these rubber stopper things in order to fit it in. And if I do that, it becomes even more floppy. And even in a perfect situation, the fit is not real solid with the Razer Kishi. And as you're holding it there, the two halves are kind of flexing, which, I mean, it's doable, but it leads for an awkward gaming experience. So I had been looking for something better than that. And the thing I like about the Gamesir is it's got like a sliding back design to where there's like a solid piece that's up against the back of the phone at any given time. So that it feels like a solid unit. And it honestly feels kind of like a really narrow Switch mini edition. And it comes in a USB-C version and a Bluetooth version. And I have been using the USB-C because it doesn't require external charging. So I have been abusing the hell out of the fact that lots of remote play apps exist on the Android. The official PlayStation remote app doesn't work with it. But thankfully, there are third-party PlayStation remote apps that the one that I am using is extremely configurable, and I think it was like $6 on the Play Store, and it supports both a remote and a local mode where it connects locally and doesn't try and communicate through any servers, so greatly reduces the latency. And having a Switch-like device that I can remote play my PlayStation 5 is a game changer. Like, it works great. I was playing Destiny on it the other night. The PlayStation 5 is a significant step forward in remote connectivity. Like, it just has better hardware than the PlayStation 4 did. I played Yakuza Like a Dragon from bed last night through Xbox Game Pass and xCloud. I, in theory, have connected with Steam and can use Steam through this little device and my phone. So basically I was looking for, like, the Steam Deck is a cool device. It is also a rather expensive device. There are a couple of Android devices that are trying to do the same thing. They're also kind of expensive. I have a good phone. I just needed a good controller to go with it. And this seems to work. I think the Bluetooth version supports iOS devices. But if you are looking for a way to remote play a bunch of your consoles and or computer, then this might be an option for you. When this originally came out, it was like $100, and that's kind of cost prohibitive. But it's come down to around the $60 price range. So it's effectively the same price as a first-party controller.
How sturdy are these things?
Extremely. It's got... So the other problem with the Razer Kishi is it had a curved design to where it limited the size of the device that it could connect to. This one sandwiches on either end of a phone and is flush. So it doesn't matter what your phone is shaped like. If it's got a curve or if it's, flat edge, it doesn't matter. It will work between this. And it's got like grippy rubber all around it. And the device itself feels really solid. Like I can one-hand it and there's no flex. And I mean, and I say that specifically because the Razer Phone 2 is an ungodly heavy phone. Like it is roughly 8 ounces for the phone by itself.
Oof.
Yeah, like it's a chunk of a phone. And like I can hold that comfortably when lying in bed if I need to adjust or something, like one-handed, and it doesn't feel like my phone is going to flex and pop out of it. So like it's a solid construction.
Very cool.
So one of the things that we realized this week is Pathfinder is almost among us, the new version. And
nothing almost about it.
It's here.
It is here. But also there's a topic that has been sitting here for a bit that we've talked about before, but I think probably needs to be revisited. Real time with pause sucks.
Oh my god, yeah. So like, okay. So I think I have on more than one occasion controversially asserted that JRPGs, especially Final Fantasy games, were doing the best they could up until about, FF13 or so on limited technology, and that the whole being turn-based was not what was envisioned up until like they had the tech to actually do it. And that's why like FF15, FF7 remake, etc. are all real time. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they support turn-based in the background is because it turned out that people really liked the unintended but necessary, design. Real time with pause is the same kind of thing, except it's terrible. Like, there are redeeming factors to turn-based Final Fantasy style combat. I have been playing. I have picked up about 4 because there's a bunch of games, a bunch of these kinds of like isometric party-based RPGs on my backlog, and there's just nothing redeemable about real time with pause. This system, you are supposed to queue up actions, unpause, and let them resolve, and then queue up pause again and queue up more actions.
Yup. And this is the way you experience like all of the intricacies of a system.
Or you could just try to, desperately click the actions quickly enough to not die.
Mostly that's what I did.
So here's the thing though, is I have been told by people who again, I have a little bit more willingness to let a game harm me if I get to experience like an interesting system. And I am told that Dragon Age Origins is some of the most fun you can have on higher difficulties. But you have to pause, queue up every single action, unpause, let those actions clear out, pause, queue up, constantly be doing this dance.
No thanks.
And here's the thing: is we have a system for executing. Actions. It's called turn-based combat.
Yes.
If you want that level of intricacy, you can have it. That exists. You can get that detailed. And the game that finally just put the nail in the coffin for real time with pause mechanics was Divinity Original Sin, which is doing the exact same thing, just with a vastly superior system.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, the thing that gets me is what conceptually makes these sort of isometric RPGs that aren't discrete movement, etc., interesting. Is you've got to think about your AoEs, you've got to place things, you've got to make trade-offs on, I'm going to catch my ally in this AoE, but the payoff is going to be worth it. And I get that. And you do that in Divinity. That absolutely happens turn by turn in Divinity. When I'm playing at this point Baldur's Gate 2 or Pillars of Eternity, I'm just that's an AoE spell that needs placing. No, it's just not going on my list. It doesn't matter how good it is, because the actions take time, and the games don't tell you how much time they're going to take, which means there's no way for you to actually know where enemies are going to be when you drop the spell, unless the spell is explicitly targeted on an enemy. And you can't center an AoE on an enemy. So your AoEs just miss all the time. Or you just never use them. And it's that kind of interaction is endemic of the whole system. Sorry, you clicked slightly wrong, so now you're going to eat 7 AOOs and die. Did you intend to move? No, I did not intend to move. But you're going to eat 7 AOOs and die because you misclicked. And there's there are so many older systems that I'm okay, that wasn't what you intended, but you've got this interesting emergent thing out of it that is interesting by itself, but there is just nothing to redeem real time with pause. Anything you would, I am now strongly of the opinion that anything that you might do that is interesting is better done by 4 or 5 different other systems. Get your, do a screen swirl and put me in straight lines against my enemies, or drop me into a tactical combat map, or make your whole thing turn-based. But
I will say, I never did get around to going back to Kingmaker once they added the official turn-based support.
It's a dramatically better game.
But because we mentioned Pathfinder at the top, I will point out that the new one, Wrath of the Demons?
Righteous.
Wrath of the Righteous, does feature turn-based mode.
Good.
Yes.
It should. It
is their second time around, and it was wildly popular, apparently.
Because it makes the game good. That game, I found that game completely, I found the game playable, but I didn't care. Because it was in order to have an experience that didn't feel like I was pulling teeth to get the UI to do what I wanted it to, I turned the difficulty all the way down to nothing just to make it work.
They also took some lessons learned, Kingmaker real-time with or Kingmaker turn-based mode was fun, but also kind of tedious. And so they have introduced options to make turn-based mode go much faster. So like you don't have to wait for every speed up all of the animations so that it doesn't take forever to like it's not quite Fallout 1
So
level of pacing.
That's the only valid complaint I mostly recognize with people who prefer real-time with pause over turn-based, is that trivial encounters are much, much, much faster in real-time with pause.
I mean, sure.
But I'm not sure games need trivial encounters.
Yeah, I was
Also
gonna say,
true.
like, as a DM, I mostly don't feel like, I feel like the lowest relative difficulty your encounter should ever have is easy, not trivial.
I feel like trivial or easy encounters make sense if you are like if it is a marathon thing, or like you are forced to go through the entire thing and like, okay, you're gonna be worn down through attrition of this.
Sure, but I guess the game I'm thinking of right now is Pillars 2, which, by the way, does have official turn-based support now. That game did not have long-term resources other than your health. Not really. So, like, its trivial encounters were completely pointless.
Yeah, like trivial encounters matter if they are chipping away at resources and making things harder over a long term. I don't actually, and I feel like if you have a game like that, you also need a system in which you can eject. Like you can say, whoops, we're too, we have spent too many resources. We can't actually do this. And like, actually, I'm going to just bail on this mission and take like a lesser reward.
And that kind of works in things like MechWarrior. Like, yeah, okay, we've spent enough time raiding here. We can leave now. There aren't a lot of RPGs that I feel like implement that well or at all. Maybe Pillars 1, actually, with its long deep dungeon thing, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the other piece, because I continue to play through Pillars of Eternity, and your comment about Deep Dungeon reminds me. There's another thing that these shows up a lot in this style of game, but like a lot of older RPGs that just drives me nuts. There is a deep dungeon that's like, it's the mega dungeon of the game that is designed so that you can't play it. You like it puts it in front of you and is like, hey, here's a thing that's probably really important. And you're like, okay, cool. And it's like, I don't even know how many floors, 15 floors, 20 floors, something like that.
Pretty sure the one in Pillars is actually 100 floors. But the first time you go there, you only need to do like the first 5. And that's all the plot ever asks you to do.
Right. And that's the thing. And there's not enough. But the plot only kind of asks you to do that and insinuates that the rest of it is really important or could be really important.
It never is.
I assume, I guess that's fair, because like it doesn't take long before you go from one level and you're like, all right, that was a reasonable level. And you go to the next level, and that level is like, okay, you're dead.
Murder time.
Yep, you're just dead. And there's no way to know how powerful enemies are in relation to you, which is a huge problem. But also, like, there's no way to know that you're supposed to check out. P.S. There is a way to check out. It's to beat that level. They have checkpointed exits, which, okay, fine. But you don't realize there are checkpointed exits until you try to leave. And they don't give you the checkpointed exits until right after a brutally hard level, like right after a boss floor, i.e. the floor that they ramp up the difficulty and try to murder you in. And like, I
blame Lufia 2, I think. I think that's the game I'm blaming for this.
For which one?
I think I'm blaming Lufia 2 for this problem. If I'm remembering correctly.
That sounds about right.
But it's common.
It's super common. And it's like,
I mean, even if FF15 did this.
It did. FF15 did this, and it drove me bonkers in that game because it was this weird misstep or seeming misstep in an otherwise great game. But like, don't don't actively, and maybe this is just, I've spent a lot of time in the MMO space, building games in the MMO space. And one of the things that MMOs pay attention to is, are you creating a point where your player is going to quit and not come back? Maybe don't make those. Like, maybe don't frustrate your players out of the game.
I mean, to be fair, in a single player game, if they played 2 hours, they don't have to care because they've already got their money.
That's a pretty cynical way of looking at things.
Right?
But,
I mean,
but you also want them to buy your next game, so it's not the best idea.
No. I mean, but I'm just saying, like, I mean, technically you've already bought the thing, so.
But like, I wanted to play Pillars of Eternity 2 because I heard it was really good, and they've got a turn-based mode. So I was like, okay, cool. And the very first thing this game wants you to do is be like, hey,
what happened in Pillars 1?
What happened in Pillars 1? And I'm like, I have no idea. Do I need to? And the game's like, yeah, because you need to tell me. Oh, it's like, oh, how did you resolve the proper noun incident? I'm like, I have no idea. What are my options? Your options are, I sided with proper noun. I sided with other proper noun. I sided with 3 proper nouns.
You have 5 proper nouns you could have sided with, and also an I was a terrible person option.
Yeah, but like, I don't know what any of these are. Did you betray X? Did Y betray you? Oh.
For what it's worth, the start of Pillars 2 does assume you have amnesia, and so some of the important characters will explain things to you. So if you just kind of pick one and go with it, then you can just play Pillars 2. Don't have too much.
The sequel where you have amnesia.
Didn't Mass Effect have the canonical version? Like where it's like, oh, you don't have a file to load?
Mass Effect's no file to load version is awful, and you should never ever do it.
Oh.
It assumes you made all the wrong choices, basically.
Nice.
I mean, the problem is like I started that game at Mass Effect 2 and I didn't know any different.
It assumes you made some choices that something like 75% of players didn't make. Something like that.
Yeah, like I had no clue who the hell Erdnot Rex was.
Wow. Wow, really?
Yeah, that's the default path.
Wow. That's messed up.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That's the big one I remember, but there were a few others.
You didn't play our first game, and to punish you, you don't get one of the best NPCs.
So they later sort of fixed this by adding the Genesis thing. It's just a visual comic in which you make the choices you would make in Mass Effect 1.
Well, but so that's what they're doing in Pillars as well, but do they...
But it's not visual. It's not visual, and they don't explain any of it.
Okay.
It's just, do one of these 5 paths, which correspond roughly to some common player sensibilities.
But I have no idea what they are.
Yeah.
They do, I think, expand on them in a little bit in the descriptions, but not that much. But honestly, if you pick one and just go with it, then it's whatever.
Yeah. But it's what drove me to be like, okay, well, before I pick up Pillars of Eternity 2, having looked into it briefly.
But Pillars 1's kind of a slog, so I'm not sure I recommend it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm discovering is Pillars 1 is a slog, and I don't want to play it. And I'm like, I don't know that I'm that interested in going into Pillars 2, given how much of a slog Pillars 1 is showing me that it is. And like, if there's a Pillars of Eternity 3, I'm probably not going to buy it. I still haven't bought Pillars of Eternity 2, despite kind of wanting to. And it's frustrating because there's some really interesting stories that get told in games like this. But boy, is it a pain to get there.
I mean, this is pretty related to my frustration with Psychonauts, but even on a more extreme timescale, because I'm pretty sure it takes a lot longer to beat Pillars of Eternity 1 than Psychonauts and Rhombus of Ruin.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I actually started playing Psychonauts again the other night, and like I'm already halfway through it. I mean, admittedly, I played it like 8 times before, so I know where the stuff is, but still, it's pretty quick.
I also feel like if you are going to make a difficulty setting in your game that is story mode, that is like story time, story mode, don't murder me in it. Like, you should make that all but impossible.
Did you run into the bear?
I've died all kinds of times, and for random like traps have killed me.
I haven't had that problem in Pillars 1 when I set it to story mode. My only problem was when I ran into the bear.
I mean, a bunch of deaths were in that stupid dungeon.
Oh, the starter dungeon?
The starter dungeon. Like, the game didn't tell me that I could get more characters just by talking to a bartender. And so I spent a while wandering around with 2 wizards because it's all I had and was like, cool.
I didn't at any point recruit any characters via the bartender.
I didn't find any character. I found one character who was a wizard. And I was like, all right, well, I guess it's just us 2 wizards wandering around. This is going to go great. And
you have the wizard and you have the important character dude. I mean, okay, spoilers maybe. Aonar, whatever his name is, he's kind of important.
Oh, the cleric? The used to be a cleric guy?
No. Are you thinking of like the fire cleric dude?
No, it's like a bitter kind of guy that you meet in the first city.
Yeah.
But you have to run around talking to like 17 different people before he's recruitable, including going into a dungeon.
Oh, that's not how I remember that.
Like, I didn't even know he was recruitable. He didn't say anything useful to me when I talked to him until somebody in a dungeon told me to go talk to him. And I was like, oh, I'll go talk to him. And then he was like, oh, well, I guess I could join you. But no, it was me and a wizard wandering around for quite some time, which, not great for your health.
No.
It sounds like they wouldn't have much health at all.
Nope. And I've played Divinity Original Sin, where I have played with a pair of wizards, and that works just fine because
that works great in Divinity.
Yeah, because you can actually place your spells. It goes back to real time with boss sucks. There are better systems. Wizards should not be like. I understand that in decades of tabletop RPGs, the wizard has been egregiously overpowered, and like that's a different problem. You shouldn't solve that problem by making the user interface suck.
Eder is his name. He is a human fighter. He's kind of important. I didn't think you could not recruit him.
Oh, what was that guy's name?
Eder, Eder.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Yeah, that's the guy who wouldn't join me until
Weird.
Some other quests or something.
I'm not going to say he's the main character and you aren't, but...
I mean, he's got some big main character energy.
He's main character.
You are actually the main character, but he is very main character-ish.
I'm here for main character-ish.
But he's also fun. His writing is very good.
Yeah, well, and that's the other thing is, like, the game, as some of these do, really tries hard to get me to quit it early by being like, here's 40 proper nouns that we're not going to explain. And here's a whole bunch of character choice decisions that you need to make before you have any idea what any of the context is. This is cool. But then, like, when you actually get into it, the writing's pretty good. I deposed some local ruler, and that doesn't even seem to be the main quest. It was just like a side thing, like,
That's definitely the main quest.
Oh, really?
That's definitely a major part of the main quest.
It sure didn't feel like it to me. It was like some side thing that I was doing in between, like, figuring out why I have weird visions or whatever. It was like, man, this guy's annoying. Can we deal with him? I was like, yeah, whatever. Like,
you have to deal with him somehow, but overthrowing him is one way.
Yeah, well, he seemed like a dick.
He is.
But anyway,
I know there are some characters people like less. Probably not coincidentally, Chris Avallone wrote those characters.
Well, you don't just fill up your party with people that you've created yourself.
You can do that. I definitely wouldn't in this game, but you could.
That's fair.
Like, to be fair, some characters I absolutely dislike. The cleric, I cannot stand the cleric.
I don't know that I've met a cleric. I've met
or I guess he's a priest.
Oh.
I keep forgetting this isn't actually D&D based.
I've met a wizard who
I do like the wizard.
Yeah, the wizard seems fine.
He's not a good person, but I like him anyway.
Yeah. He doesn't seem like a good person, but he seems fine. I've met the fighter who seems kind of bland, but whatever. I've met the, like, probably a bard guy who, again, like, seems fine. It's, like, mildly annoying, but at least he's enthusiastic about it.
The very, very enthusiastic person?
Yeah. And then, like,
he's okay.
Really angry dwarf with her, like, wolf or something friend.
Oh, I like her. I like her a lot.
Yeah, she seems fine. She seems interesting enough that I was like, let me do some other stuff. And that's all I've met.
Yeah, that means you probably walked past Durant, who is the cleric, who is a fire cleric, and I find him very annoying. I think the other characters you mostly can't get until later.
I definitely haven't found anybody that I would describe as a fire cleric.
He's just sort of sitting around, like right outside the first town, looking at a statue. But yeah, this game could be better. It would be better if it were turn-based.
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad.
That's the thing is, if I thought it was just bad, I would have checked out of it. And I don't think it's bad. There's a lot of really interesting stuff. I had a similar feeling when I went back to Baldur's Gate 2 or Planescape Torment. And Planescape Torment is a fantastic game, except when you have to fight anything, and it's miserable. But at least you don't have to do that very often.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, Planescape Torment, you can avoid almost all battle. I don't think it's possible to make it through the entire game without having to fight anything, but you come pretty close.
There's random stuff in the start of the game that just runs up and punches you, and you're like, what is even happening? Why I thought I was talking to people in a relatively peaceful place, but no, this thing is running up and punching me.
But Pillars of Eternity is not structured like that. It has areas you need to get to that have encounters in them with both not reasonable people and not people. So it's not possible to get through without fighting.
Sitting here looking at the list of other topics, and I'm not sure we have another one that's super short. Anybody have any little thoughts? Okay, what are your thoughts?
I was just browsing my Steam list and saw that the letter V 6 times has an update.
Yeah, just updated this week.
And I'm super excited. This is the Everything Kodra Wanted update. Big notable standout is Glitch Runner mode, which allows you to set the physics and glitches back to 2.0.
Oh, wow.
But still lets you have controller support. I can do any %.
This means that you can play through and skip the Gravitron.
Yeah. I can do the truly bonkers 80% route, which starts with you immediately dying in a cutscene and then going back to your main ship and skipping the tutorial. And then going back and doing the tutorial much later in the game.
Well, okay.
So, the normal structure of this game is you rescue a character during the tutorial. Then you rescue another character and you go back to your ship. Then you rescue another character and get intermission 1. And you have to complete intermission 1 before you can finish rescuing that character.
Right.
You rescue another character and get intermission 2, which is the Gravitron. The Gravitron kind of takes a while.
At least a minute.
Yeah, at least a minute, and usually more than that.
Uh-huh.
And then you go back to your ship. Then you rescue the last character and you get lost. And you have to complete the game through the ending.
But if you manage to rescue 2 characters, you get lost and skip the Gravitron at the very end.
The secret there is rescuing the tutorial character second last, I believe.
Yep.
Because after the end of the tutorial, the game doesn't take you to the intermission. You just go back to your ship and do the starting game dialogue.
This also makes it a lot easier to do stuff like the tower, where some of the tech for the tower is extremely finicky to get right on glitchless, but is a lot easier on with the retry glitch. Because on glitchless, you actually had to hit the spikes right as you got the save, which is a real miserable piece of timing. In this, you can just hit the save and then hit restart, because it's an auto-scroller. So if you die, you scroll to the middle of the screen, and if you died on a save point that was at the top of the screen, the game rapidly scrolls you down. But yeah,
it also probably lets you flip through the very low autoflip barriers.
I was trying to do that, and I could not pull it off, and I need to look up what that tech is. But yes.
I only remember working in 2 spots in the game, one of which is in the last level.
This is the one game I have anything on speedrun.com for, and the only thing I have is 100% glitchless, because that's the one category that lets me play with a controller. But now I can play all of the categories with a controller. This is good. I don't want to play platformers on my keyboard. I realize this makes me a scrub.
I mean, I'm pretty much a keyboard diehard, and I still don't play platformers on a keyboard. I mean, I had enough of that with playing Duke 2 back in the day in Commander Keen.
Same.
Because I didn't have a controller. And then eventually I got a Gravis gamepad, and it was like the world changed.
Yes.
I played Commander Keen on a controller. Or not on a controller, on a joystick.
Oh, nice.
That sounds like misery.
It wasn't good. I wasn't good at Commander Keen. I really need to make that particular thing clear. But I was a child, and I had heavily internalized that only the bad workman blames his tools. And so I figured I was just bad. No, you shouldn't play that game on a joystick.
Yep. But yeah, no, most like serious speedrunners do platformers on keyboard because it gives you more fine-tuned motor control over your character. But I don't. I need to have the controller in hand for it to be fun.
So the thing that I don't understand is there's a popular thing with fighting game aficionados where they are playing the game with like WASD basically on a controller. They have fight sticks with WASD on them. It's a thing. Like, I've seen several people do this thing because they can do the inputs more like precisely.
This is news to me. The thing I've seen is things like the hitbox and variants of it.
Yes.
Like, they're just, instead of having a joystick for, like where a normal fight pad would have one, they just have more buttons.
Right. But there's a version of that with basically mechanical switches in WASD.
Huh.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't get it. Like, this is the primitive way that we used to play games on the computer before we had controllers.
Because once you get down to it, you're just trying to put inputs in very precise things, and joysticks are very continuous, and key buttons are very discrete. And if you want very, very high precision, and like the joystick is this continuous plane that actually only represents 8 different key sets, then you might as well just have those 8 different key sets.
Right.
This is why I can never have double tap to dodge on in a game, because I got so used to precision movements by rapidly making short taps on my keys that I still do that.
Yeah, I run into that problem. Because, yeah, I absolutely just very light taps to just move very slightly.
Yep.
Right.
But then you do it again, and nope.
I hate double tap to dodge because, like, for me, I need a dodge button. Because, like, I am constantly double tapping keys. Like, I remember back in the day, the official Street Fighter 2 game for PC was awful. Like, it was a universally bad port, and there was a sketchy bootleg port, and I played the hell out of it. And all I had was a keyboard, and it was really infuriating to do Street Fighter 2 commands on a keyboard. So, like, I can't see going back to that, but apparently that is a thing that exists. It is just like the hitbox, but instead of buttons, it's got like mechanical switches.
That's a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't, like, it sort of makes sense, but it's still a little weird to me. I have contemplated trying to see like what it's like to actually play on a hitbox or similar style controller.
It would be a really big lift to get used to it. Like, you could build that easy enough, like, if you just bought switches.
It'd probably be easier than building a normal fight stick.
But it's a mindset thing. Like, it would take a lot of getting used to.
Can confirm the mindset. The mindset makes it hard. Like, I've been thinking, oh man, I'm using the stick in Celeste. If I really want to be good, I should probably try something else. I've tried playing with the D-pad. I've tried playing with keyboard, and it's like, nope, I know how to do this on a joystick. Cool. I'm just going to be on a joystick now. And I will deal with the fact that I miss inputs.
I think it's a little funny. I am better at bullet hell shooters on a keyboard than I am on a controller.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, absolutely same.
That's just what I got used to playing on. So,
Well, it's like, I struggle to play Diablo-style games with a controller. Or like twin stick shooters, I suck at. But if it's me controlling the character with WASD and me clicking heads with my mouse, like it's much easier for me than two sticks. So a lot of my adventures with like trying to make a workable Android Switch are me trying to find a reasonable way to play Final Fantasy 14 like remote, like in a handheld mode. And I have started going down the rabbit hole that is trying to bind the keyboard or the controller settings for a character, and that is like a whole other version of the game, and I don't know if I will be able to get used to it.
it's definitely an adjustment.
And just setting it up, like I'm gonna have to carve out a couple of hours to set things up.
Like, it's a perfectly reasonable paradigm, and honestly, it gives you easier to reach buttons in a lot of cases than the mouse and keyboard does.
Right.
But it's not what I'm used to.
It's a remapping of your brain. And like, if nothing else, I would like to be able to get it to the point to where like I could go into Diadem and harvest or something like that. Cause like that doesn't require a lot of key presses. Anyway, that's probably a show.
I did want to mention real quick. I have finished Psychonauts 2 now, 100%. It's I stand by my belief that it is a very, very good game. And having started the original Psychonauts over to play through it again, I think Psychonauts 2 is actually better.
Nice.
Wow.
To a great degree, because the controls are tighter and more reliable. There's like, so while playing through Psychonauts 2, I felt like, wow, this is a lot easier than the original was. Like this just never gets as difficult. And admittedly, there is no level as punishing as the original Meat Circus was. There is no level in Psychonauts as punishing as the original Meat Circus was because they patched that out. It was too hard.
Nice.
It's still kind of rough. But like, there's more enemy types, and you fight them in different ways, and some of them are kind of difficult. But mostly, like, the jumping and platforming is so much cleaner than it was in the original. It was kind of jank in the original, I have to admit. Like, it was a fantastic game despite that.
Yep.
But yeah, and I was right. It turned out there were 4 more brains at the point that I was at, and one of those 4 is probably my second favorite in the entire game. My very favorite is the one that features a character voiced by Jack Black.
Nice.
Who does sing a fantastic song at the climax.
That's awesome. Cool.
But yeah,
I will continue playing this, and I will probably at some point try and find a way to watch or play Rhombus of Ruin.
Yeah, I'm going to dig around and see if I can find something watchable that, I don't know. I just don't know with VR. We'll see.
Yep.
On that note, hopefully everyone enjoyed the show, and we will see you all again next week. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See you.